Um, we just, the sad thing is if we can get organized, this is the time for us to crack the nut, right? This really is. This could be a great time for us to push back. But the thing is because we're not organized and because, the left does not work well together, we have things like Lee Carter losing in Virginia.
That was a shame.
Right.
And him opening up about how much dog shit was flung his way, even from Democrats,
Yeah. I mean, and that's what killed me. A bunch of libs were giving him a hard time because he came out and said, you know what? I dropped the price of insulin. I help people, we help start jobs programs. We tried, I did the best I could. And because I got death threats, I'm taking a step back, leave me the fuck alone. And then you have a bunch of Democrats come out and say, you see this is why I didn't win. He's a quitter. He wasn't really there for the people of Virginia. He doesn't want to live in Manassas anymore. Well, dude, that's expensive as fuck to live in. I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is like, reminds me when AOC was pointing out, hey, it's really fucking expensive just to live in Washington, D.C. And people are like, oh, you privileged fucking, and whatever. And it's like, she's making a congressional salary. Yes. But like, she was just a bartender like a few months ago. You know what I mean? Like she's not buying a brownstone like fucking Schumer or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's like the disconnect. I mean, it's so hard. That's the other thing. Like, it's so hard to get a socialist into office to even serve as that. Bernie Sanders, go back to all the clips of him screaming out into the void and everybody, oh, you want another war, do you? And then he cut to the chambers. It's totally empty, right? Like it's so hard for us to even get someone there. And then we have such a portion of the left that's just going to absolutely turn on them the second they try to play ball or try to do, work. I mean, oh, you mean they're not there to just fucking scream and yell and hate the Democrats for us? Like, oh, well, fuck them. You know what I mean? So it's like they're getting shit thrown at them. And this is an interesting thing that you mentioned, that the left doesn't even work well with among itself. I jumped in and was listening to you doing a live stream on Twitch about the Spanish Revolution, the Spanish Civil War, and very much things fell apart there for that reason. What were the groups that were involved there? I can't remember off the top of my head.
So you had the POUM, okay, mm-hmm. which was they called it Trotskyist, okay, but essentially it was an independent communist party that was not aligned with the Soviet Union. You had the Spanish Communist Party, which was aligned with Stalin and the Soviet Union. Then you had the CNT, which was an anarchist group, which were very influential in Catalonia. So then you had a lot of other independent anarchist groups all across the country, right? But socialism was the main driver of the of what you would call the republic, right? That government, and it was very left in the 30s. They had a quick swing back to the right, and then another swing back to the left, and then that's when Franco was like, okay, well, the more conservative elements in the country went to the army, these generals, and said, hey, let's go ahead and push for a rebellion, right? But the thing is, the republic shot itself in the foot because they aligned themselves so closely with Stalin and the Soviet Union. And you got to think, this thing kicks off in 1936. What happened right before that? The big purges in the Communist Party within the Soviet Union, right? Where you saw heroes of the revolution in 1917 being put to death, not even 20 years later, right? Because, like it or lump it, like here, this is some real history for you. The Soviet Union would have worked without these, the big authoritarian, big umbrella Communist Party. If they would have left the power down to the individual Soviets, it would have worked a lot better. But you had people like Stalin who saw it as a chance to consolidate power in one man's hands, and then he built up that cult of personality, right? Mm-hmm. Where, he was able to just, hey, that guy's not communist enough, and, the secret police would go nab him up, right? And the thing is he sent advisors and commissars into Spain with that same mentality. So you had Spanish Communist Party people that would come into like the international brigades, right, which were all volunteers from outside of Spain, and they would be like, okay, they would have to be interviewed when they got to the International Brigade HQ at Albacete, right? They would sit down for an interview with a commissar, and if the commissar didn't think he was communist enough, one of two things happened: they sent him back to France, and if he was found very wanting, he would just be put on the wall and shot, right?
Jesus.
And the thing is you continue, you're fighting this war where you have half as many tanks, half as many planes. You're fighting, your enemy is completely 100% funded by Nazi Germany and fascist Italy, and the only backer you have is the Soviet Union, right? And it's only very half-hearted support because he's sending all this old stuff to Spain because they've developed new gear in the Soviet Union, right? And then on top of that, you did have saboteurs who managed to get into the Republican units that would damage the equipment before they went to battle, right? So yeah, I mean, the Spanish left ate itself alive from 36 to 39. By the time 1939 rolled around, you had the very pro-Stalin Spanish Communist Party that were, literally murdering anarchists that had held territory for a year and a half, 2 years before 39. But when the Spanish communists got pushed in there, they wanted to take over and completely unsettled everything. And, Catalonia, that could have been like a stand, a place for them to make a stand and kind of push back out, but they fucked it up, So I mean, that's the left eats itself wherever we are. And you look in the United States now, you can't get Socialist Alternative to work with PSL, right? Depending on what state you're in, DSA won't work with PSL or Socialist Alternative or even some mutual aid groups, right? Like Lorax on left flank, and Marcus, they want to bring up this big 10-point plan. Well, how do we get everybody, all these disparate groups, to kind of agree to that? For me, I'm willing to work with anybody on the left, right? Who our journeys might be a little different getting there. Our terminology and verbiage may be a little different, but if we want the same thing and we're willing to just work together to do it, I'm all right with that, except, and here's my one caveat. If you're a reformed Nazi, fuck no, still kick rocks. I don't want anything to do with you.
I mean, there's so many different levels of that going on right now. Like, we need to, how broad should our coalition be? Like, you know what I mean? And the whole, I mean, just how hard is it, like you said, just to coalesce socialists, right? Let alone then getting the libs involved. Can you get socialists and anarchists, to just calm down on the libs for just a second to get them to actually come over a little bit? But then there's all these people who, I don't know what really is their their ideological set, right? Who want now, the Boogaloo Boys and all these, neo-fascists, as if we need, as if that makes any sense at all.
I blame that on Jimmy Dore. I'm sorry.
Of course. Yeah, we have to bring him up. He's like, he's the elephant in the room, but
he's Baba Yaga. He is Baba Yaga. The guy just pops up and ruins every fucking good thing that we have.
I felt really clever when I came up with it. When you were talking about all these different leftist factions in the chat on your Twitch stream, I went in the Jimmy Dore voice, like the one of the groups, like fucking sellouts, or whatever. But there's all this disagreement. Like I get it. Like, there has been this. I feel like there's a type of a leftist also that wants to seem like I'm there's a lot of leftists that want to seem like the most leftist, but there's also a bunch of them now that are trying to broadcast I'm the most, I don't overreact about these things leftist. Like January 6th wasn't really that big of a deal. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you got to understand, like, there's two things I want to ask you about this. The first is, do I overestimate that the right just fucking fall? They all fall in line and they get together. Like, they could be all these divergent weirdo Bundy libertarians, far right evangelicals, but they will all, like, what's the thing we're attacking this week? Critical race theory. All right, we're fucking on it. We got the talking points. Let's do it. Right. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that there's all this talk about Trump can't be a fascist because he's too stupid, or Trump can't be a fascist because he's too lazy. Trump can't be a fascist, or he wouldn't really, the January 6th guys couldn't really overthrow the government because, or, they didn't have the military, or because they were just idiots, or, and. There's all these excuses made. But to me, that really like underestimates the banality of evil and the fact that you can have totally incompetent, bumbling morons totally successfully execute like a right-wing killing campaign that kill hundreds of thousands, like Indonesia, for instance. Go watch the documentary The Act of Killing, where they got all these guys together to reminisce over the old days of killing not just communists but socialists and union organizers and hippies and artists and people with long hair, whoever they just thought they was vaguely left. Let's fucking kill them. Like, these guys aren't geniuses. They thought their big breakthrough was choking people with a wire because look, there's less blood now. Now we got less blood, less cleaning time. We're smart here. We know what we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, to your first point, I really think that the right is able to coalesce in a way the left can't. And I think that we as leftists, right?
Yes.
We forgot about the Tea Party. The Tea Party was not a big, it wasn't a singular idea. This was just a lot of fucking conservative people, like you said, with a lot of whacked out ideas that were like, you know what, fuck it. If you back me up here and send some money to help my campaign in like Missouri, I will send your, money to your campaign in Florida. And we'll get some people into Congress, and they're going to have to listen to us.
Really quick, everybody talks about the AstroTurf. Well, the Tea Party was all AstroTurf. So the fuck what? It got results, and it was proto-Trumpian in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, it was Trump before we knew that his bitch ass was going to run, right?
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And they were able to do that because, yes, there are differences in verbiage. Like that's the best way I can put it, right?
Yeah.
But they all are kind of singular in their ideas. They are anti-abortion. They are pro-life, which we all know is bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Death penalty, war.
Gigantic expenditures in the defense budget, slashing social programs, gigantic cuts to education. These are all things that these the evangelicals you were talking about, the Q guys, the whole gamut of the right, they all have those things in common. Right. And that's what they stress. For us on the left, we do have a lot in common. We really do. Yep. But you know what we focus on, though, is the theory and the people that we associate with. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're a Trotskyist, you can't work with somebody who's really into Marx. Right. If you're if you're into Marx, you can't really work with somebody, it's like, say, somebody like me. Right. Because I don't want a big overarching party. I don't want that. I want us to stay local and small. That way we can be effective, right? So like we get hung up on that shit, even though we have the same goals and we believe many of the same things.
It's like the narcissism of small differences.
Yeah. Well, somebody, Anders in chat, just said it's Puritanism. That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It's commie Puritanism, Anders. You're absolutely fucking right.
I had Ben Burgess on last week to talk about his new book, Canceling Comedians While the World Burns. And while I might disagree with him on how serious to take the January 6th or things like that, like the penchant for the left now to like glue itself to moralism and to constantly be hung up on that, which it's not like it isn't important if somebody in your organization is sexually harassing people and all that, but like at the same time, being so like policing each other, you know what I mean, being like super right wing about behavior, right? Where I mean, like, come on, like, we used to have the 60s. Before that, the left was the jazz age. You know what I mean? Like free love and drugs, sex, and jazz or rock and roll. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks the 60s invented that drug, sex, and music. But
just look at Berlin during the Weimar period. That was about. I mean, that was about as communist, socialist / libertarian as you could get, because like you had people that they were organizing unions, they were avowed communists and socialists. But man, if they weren't just running around fucking each other, doing all the drugs in the world,
Yeah.
like Berlin was nuts during the Weimar period.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think we do have to be very careful, right, about making our leftist spaces safe for all our comrades. We have to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get into this argument all the time. We cannot address class until we address sexism and racism and trans thought, anti-homo. Like we have to make sure our spaces are safe for everyone, because the thing is, the left, this movement of ours, is not straight and white anymore. It's queer as fuck. Like these are the people that are going to carry our movement forward, because we have to be able to just, like, I should not be in charge of shit right now, right? I'll be 40 this year. I shouldn't be carrying a movement. I should be supporting a movement, right? Like that's how I look at it, because we have people that have actual like life experience, whether it's protesting police violence against our comrades of color, or whether we're protesting, like I went to a protest where a bank refused to give loans to gay married couples.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right? I went, those comrades are going to carry us forward, because their story is going to resonate a hell of a lot more than mine is, as a straight white dude who fucking did imperialism for 16 years, right? Like,
shit, yeah.
Like, I can be here to support. I will do whatever my comrades, as long as it's not illegal, unethical, or immoral. And by illegal, I mean for me. Like, that's so we don't have any lawyers here, but I'm not trying to make sure. I'm trying to keep no one's getting in trouble legally, right? But like that's how I look at it.
Yeah. No, I tell my, people in my Discord, for fuck's sake, like, hey guys, we're not talking about burning down police precincts or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's not because, like, I mean, first of all, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, right? But second, yeah, thank you. But secondly, they're fucking watching us, and they're, it's how many stories did you have to read about Discord, like moles and all this kinds of shit. Like, I want the left to be smart, and I mean, and I agree with you totally on who should and shouldn't be. Like, I don't want to lead anybody. People, I've been a journalist since I was in high school, right? And like it's all about telling people's stories and just getting information to people. I have some type of egoism to start a fucking YouTube channel and do the types of things I'm doing, but it's really because I just want to tell the story. As a journalist, I have, like you said, I do a local focus on things. This is a pretty conservative area, so I feel like there needs to be somebody out here on the left, like, speaking up and speaking out. If I can use the fact that I'm a white dude to my advantage, and talking all the shit about we got all kinds of right wing nut jobs out here in power, in real actual power, then I will do that. But at the same time, I think, like, there's just a lot of people. I mean, like, Force the Vote was such an example of how much, like, fucking protagonist mentality, like, like, and just like main character mentality that fucking YouTube hosts and power that they think they have. Like, look what I've done with my YouTube channel. Like, fuck, bro, like, get the fuck over yourself. Like, you're just sitting. This is not special. We're dudes sitting on our asses talking into microphones on the internet.
Yeah.